Welcome back to the Right Questions podcast. This is episode 15. I am here with Bridget Sampson, my partner in everything. Bridget, how's it going today? I know you're excited for our conversation, so you're not allowed. I'm going to take that one away from you. How are you this morning?
Okay, I can't say I'm excited. I'm just happy.
No,
I am happy
there.
to be here. And as we were saying, we've had many guests. If you're listening and you haven't gone back and listened to our episodes with all of our amazing guests, I encourage you to do so. So it's kind of fun that today it's just you and me, Todd. And I love the excitement of having a guest. And I also love the balance of it's just us. So we know each other really well. And we're just going to have a great conversation about something that I know we both care very deeply about, and that I think will offer the listeners some great value.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, this is, so the topic today, I'm just going to get right to it. And that's why I said, like, how is your morning going? Because the topic today is all about morning, specifically the question, what is your morning routine? What's your morning routine? What does it consist of? Do you even have one? Have you thought it out? If you have a dream one in mind, what's keeping you from creating it? Now, we're going to talk about some of the benefits of creating that routine, but we're really going to, pull back the curtain and just give you insight into how we start our days, how we start our mornings. And maybe Bridget will let you know, I can honestly say it's not every morning. It's almost every morning, but sometimes things interrupt it and I get little pieces here and there. I have to sprinkle them across the day. So it's not to say that I don't also fall off my morning routine here and there, but on the whole, I have a very specific morning routine. Bridget has a very specific morning routine. It's changed throughout the years. And throughout even the weeks and months, it's well thought out. And we're going to encourage you to do something by the end of this episode to take what we're offering you, not to do what we're doing, right, Bridget? I mean, we're not trying to say, here's what you should do. We're just trying to say, here's what we do. Here's what the research says. What are you going to do? What do you think, Bridget? What do you think?
I completely agree. And I want to share my morning routine has changed and evolved and grown over the years. So we just want to share what works for us. And you may want to take pieces of it, or you may want to research further anything that we talk about that works for us. And so we're just offering it with encouragement for you to have a morning routine because, wow, that sets up your whole day, right? The way that you start your day and investing a little bit of time to mindfully practice the routines that best set you up to be of service for the day, to enjoy the day, to move through the day with calm and grace and being the best person you can possibly be and living the life that you want to live. Because the truth is, we're not guaranteed anything. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. When we wake up in the morning, we have this day in front of us. And so the morning, what we choose to do in the morning, I believe firmly sets us up for the entire day. So it's so important. And we're really, really happy to share some ideas with you about that.
We are life coaches. We are executive coaches. We, have this topic come up. I mean, Bridget, we talk about it constantly, which is what the spirit of today is and why we're having this discussion for all of you and sharing it with all of you, because it comes up in coaching quite a bit, whether it's personally or professionally. How we ground ourselves, the foundation, as you were just talking about, Bridget, the foundation that is our life. Many argue, not everyone, but many argue rests in our morning. And since self-fulfilling prophecies, I say it all the time, self-fulfilling prophecies can go every which way, up, down, and sideways. If we're not directing our ship in the ways that we want it to go, then really, it's going to go wild. I often use the metaphor of like a wild Mustang or a wild horse bronco out, on the prairie, just running wild. And that is a metaphor for our minds. Like our minds run wild. And unless we do something, have practices in the morning to focus our mind on the things that are most meaningful, most important to us, we may never, metaphorically throw some reins around that horse and tame it. It's good to tame the mind, right? So that's what we're going to do today. What's your morning routine? Bridget, Do you know what the research says about morning routines? What do you know? What does your mind even tell you, or what do you know about morning routines and the benefits of them?
I think the research would say that they're very important, that they are helpful for mind, body, and soul, and
Indeed.
well, Todd, you are the researcher, so let's let you do your thing.
It was
I
a
research
leading
what I have
question.
to, but I want to hear from you, and I think all our listeners want to hear from you what the research says.
Right. Oh, thank you. So just to ground this in sort of what the science and the research says, and there's a number of books written about morning routines and a number of research studies at that. But just to quote one, and I'll sprinkle the research across our discussion, but just to quote one gentleman, Hal Elrod, who wrote the international bestseller The Miracle Morning. He also wrote, I think, a follow up to that, which was Miracle Morning Millionaires, because he found a relationship between earning money, wealth, actually financial wealth, and how we spend our mornings. So you may want to look into that. But here's a quote from him. He says, "How you wake up each day and your morning routine or lack thereof dramatically affects your level of success in every single area of your life. Focused, productive, successful mornings generate focused, productive, successful days, which inevitably create a successful life, in the same way that unfocused, unproductive, and mediocre mornings generate unfocused, unproductive, and mediocre days, and ultimately a mediocre quality of life. So by simply changing the way you wake up in the morning, you can transform any area of your life faster than you ever thought possible." That's Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning. How's that hit you, Bridget?
I love it. I could not agree more. And yes, it just reinforces everything that I know intuitively and that I know is true for me when I practice my morning routine and when I don't practice my morning routine. And
Right.
I didn't know the part about the millionaire part, but Todd, you and I work with some really
Yep.
successful people as we've had many guests on who are definitely in that
Our
millionaire
past two
category.
guests,
They all have morning routines.
Kalika,
Mhm.
Bree, right?
Yeah.
Kalika, yeah, Bree
Yeah.
Waterman, or
Quan,
less
right?
Quan,
Everybody, Connor, they
yeah.
all have for sure very intentional, very beautifully crafted morning routines that serve them in all the ways that you just described from the research. So excellent research, Professor Parker. You know, we are professors as well, everyone. So don't forget that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add increased happiness, reduce procrastination, boost confidence, improve overall performance. So it's kind of like those infomercials where it's like, wait, there's more. Why wouldn't you want it, right? And it's all within your control. So if we could, there's some other parts to it. I mean, so just to comment on what it does for our optimism, a study of analysis of Twitter, right, which is a nice insight window into the mind of people. We use the word super and awesome more often from 6 to 9 a.m. than we do any other time of the day.
Funny. I
Right.
love that. That's so true for me.
And we have we have this kind of this tank of, call it optimism, call it patience, call it tolerance, right? We have this tank. We're only human. And by starting our mornings in a specific way, they found that we can really increase the volume of our tank. We can fill our tank if it's empty, and then we can last longer across the day. Say maybe use super, those words super and awesome a little more later
Even at
into
4
the 12.
p.m. Right. The 4 p.m. dip. I don't think I'm saying awesome and super a lot, but I love it. I'm going to do that now. That's my first tip, is make sure to say awesome and super throughout the whole day, because then it tells your brain that things are awesome and super. That is so fascinating. I love this fascinating material that you find somehow that you
So
dig up,
Bridget,
Todd.
thank you so much. What is I want to know, maybe don't give us all of it, right?
Don't get, okay, I know. Like, how deep do I
I'm
go?
going to
No.
ask the question. Yeah. How do you give us give us part of the first part of, actually, here's my question for you, Bridget. Why, what have you found is the need for you to have your morning routine? Like, why do you personally get up and are committed to doing it? Why do you do it?
I have a better day. It's that simple. I'm calmer. I'm more positive. I am more able to be true to myself and follow through the day that I want to have. I eat the way I plan to eat, going deep inside and really solidifying this is how I want to live my life, and this day matters. So I eat healthier, I live healthier, I feel more positive, I feel more connected to other people, because going inward, I make choices about being kind and loving, loving kindness, meditation. And, so it completely shapes how I go about my day and how my day goes. So that's why.
Exactly.
And all right, so I'll just give you the first few things. No?
What time do you get up?
Okay.
What time do you, Harriet, let's start there. What time do you get up?
Usually between 6 and 7, but ideally for me, and I've learned this from all my teachers and everybody out there. I have practiced and gone to so many classes on this and worked one-on-one with so many amazing teachers. So forgive me if you're out there and you're one of my teachers, but I have done deep study, and I am a Reiki certified. I am, I've done lots and lots of practice myself, Reiki 1 and 2 certified. I've done all kinds of spiritual practices. I'm Kriya initiated yoga, the ancient yoga techniques. So a lot of this it's this kind of mix of all these studies that I've done for my whole adult life. So should I just give you the first couple things? Or where do I go, Todd?
So you wake up between 6 and 7, and then what do you do? What do you immediately go do?
Well, before I say that, I do want to just add that my perfect sleeping hours, and I believe some research has shown for many people, are 10 to 6. So that's I believe firmly in 8 solid hours. I know it's difficult if you have young kids, and I wasn't able to do that when my kids are young, but for me, it's 10 to 6. So first thing I do when I get up is I go to the restroom, of course, and then I get back. I do my morning practices are based in Ayurvedic principles, which is Eastern spirituality and mind, body, soul, health, and wellness. And I learned them from Charisse Kruger. And I must say that I've been in many classes. Her husband is Adam Kruger, who's a fellow podcaster. You've got to listen to their podcast, Enhanced Living, Adam's podcast, which Charisse is off and on. But many people in our circle, including Kalika and guests we've had, follow Charisse religiously, because she is trained in all of this. So she taught me all the Ayurvedic practices. And to be honest, when she first started teaching me, I was a skeptic. I was like, I don't know about all this stuff. So know that it took me a while, and I've been doing all of this for 5 or 6 years, and it has been a game changer in every single way: mind, body, spirit, health, wellness, all of it. So first thing is called tongue scraping. And you get one of these gadgets. You can get them on Amazon, at a pharmacy, anywhere.
Jump on YouTube if you don't.
Yeah, you got to see this on YouTube.
What she's holding.
Simple device. It's called a tongue scraper. This is an Ayurvedic principle. So forgive me for getting gross here, but we all know we wake up in the morning, we have all this white gunk on our tongue. And apparently there are millions, thousands, millions of really bad bacteria on there. Streptococcus. I can't even pronounce all of it, but I tried to read. Just trust me on it, that you can read all these articles on tongue scraping. So you take this and you get all that gunk off. And apparently brushing your teeth, mouthwash, everything else we do does not cut it like tongue scraping does, because you get it off, you get it out, you rinse this thing off, and you'll be disgusted by all that white gunk that comes off, but you get it out of your mouth, and it's supposed to be super, super healthy. Okay. And then it's oil pulling, which is also an ancient Ayurvedic practice where you put a little bit of oil into your mouth, and you can mix essential oils if you want. And I choose to use thieves. And sometimes a lot of people like to use mint essential oils as well. And you swish it around in your mouth. It's like mouthwash. I mean, we know the proven benefits of mouthwash. Your dentist will tell you, but oil pulling is supposed to go a little deeper because it's oil. So all the bacteria in your mouth and all the bad stuff in there binds to the oil, and you swish it around. And also the thieves is supposed to have antibacterial properties and to prevent sickness. You can believe that or not believe it. There's some research, not a lot.
Yes,
it's supposed to, right. It steals. So honestly, since I've been doing this for years, I don't get sick. I really don't get sick. Or if I get sick, I get a little bit, and I never canceled a day of work, anything since I've been doing this.
I can attest to,
really?
to the amount of sickness that you've experienced. Yeah.
I don't.
Known you quite closely for many years.
Thank you, Todd.
A decade plus. Yeah, you don't get sick very much.
That is one of the claims. Although I will say the research if you're really, really demanding of like hard scientific peer reviewed research, which I understand, it is not there as far as I know. But it's again ancient Eastern spirituality, ancient Ayurvedic, which is the sister science to yoga as well, says that this works. For me personally, it works. But also, oil pulling just gets everything out, so it really, really cleans your mouth
Mhm.
out. It is, the claims are, again, you can research, but I have experienced whiter teeth, fresher breath, a much fresher, cleaner mouth, not getting sick.
I bet
Um,
Neil appreciates that.
yeah. So, lots of, I feel I get these benefits. So here's the thing. Some people love it and some people hate it. So it may be for you. It may not be for you. I've recommended it to people who are like, oh, I can never do that. And also you can do it for as little or as long as you want. I actually do it for about 20 minutes every morning. That's the recommended maximum. I keep it in my mouth. It's just a little bit, keep swishing it around because it keeps pulling everything off the teeth, the tongue, the gums. Oh, it's also supposed to reduce gingivitis and all kinds of mouth diseases.
Mhm.
Oh, I forgot to say, cavities, dental health. So growing up, anybody who knew me growing up can attest. My parents, I had cavities every single time I went to the dentist. Since I started oil pulling about 6 years ago, not a single cavity, not a single need for any dental care. That's my anecdotal experience, and all people
And
who believe
Bridget,
in oil pulling will tell you.
she doesn't sell tongue scrapers or
No,
anything
we're
of
not
that
selling
nature.
anything. No,
Yeah, that's
nothing.
right.
Just
She just enjoys
selling
it and
health and happiness and feeling good. That's all. So I'll stop there. But what I do is then I go into my meditation. So I do my oil
mm,
pulling while I'm meditating, which is also lovely because it helps me make sure that my nose is very clear because I have to breathe through my nose. So I blow my nose, make sure to get it all clear. I know a lot of people also use the neti pot to clear out their nose,
oh
but
yeah.
mine is pretty clear regularly. But just another thing that I don't do, but that lots of my friends who do these kinds of things, is the neti pot. So then I go with the oil and the essential oils in my mouth, and I use coconut oil mixed with Thieves essential oil. I go back into the bed, try to go quietly because Neil's usually still there, my husband, and I meditate. And I have no less than 5 meditation apps. So I pick from one. I have a zillion meditation teachers who do guided meditations who I love, 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 including Tamara Levitt. Sarah Blondin is amazing. Jeff Warren. There are so many. And I pick which meditation I want to do for the day, which is 10 to 20 minutes. And I oil pull while I do that, sit up upright as we're recommended to. And I do my guided meditation for 10 to 20 minutes while swishing the oil around in my mouth. That's just the beginning. So there you go. I'll stop there and see what questions or if you want to share
How
yours.
long does that take you? How long, what's the time
So
frame?
I'm probably at, after meditation, I'm at like 20 minutes now. If I
Okay.
did it,
See,
usually I do more like a 10-minute meditation.
so
So
and I asked that question because one of the challenges towards having a morning routine of any kind of structure and ritual can be like, oh, there's so many things that get in the way, right? Like I have young kids. I have a 9 and
yeah.
a 6-year old, and they just turned 9 and 6. So I have, it's just starting to get where my 9-year-old can do a number of things. My 6, right? But I have to balance all that. So I only bring it up to say, like, there's plenty of time if you are intentional about carving out the time and you want to
Yes.
change your morning. You can. We're
Yeah.
just take that. Let's take that excuse right away, right? There's
Yeah.
books devoted to this. Like the 5 a.m. Club is a fantastic book. Like I don't wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I do. Sometimes there are times where my morning starts at 5 a.m. and I go quickly and walk the dogs, which is one part of something I do. But that's not every morning. It's not the most common thing, right? But what I hear in your morning, Bridget, is reflection and ritual, right? As one of the
Yes.
one, it's kind of, if you think of the categories that you're trying to achieve, like the 5 a.m. Club, again, great book, talks about moving, reflecting, growing, right? As 3 kind of categories, right? If you were going to take an hour and take 5 to 6 a.m., that's why I asked you, when do you wake up, right? Because when people say, oh, I don't have the time, it's like, well, when do you wake up? What time did you go to sleep? And to your point, Bridget, the research says, I mean, it's not research, but we know inherently we have a circadian rhythm. We have a rhythm to our
Mhm.
bodies, right? And so if if that rhythm is off, if we're not synced up, if we don't have that rhythm in flow, then we're going to experience some issues. So getting up and going to sleep at the same times, to your point, 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. are actually the first suggestions for having healthy sleep habits and for starting your morning off correctly. So it starts the night
Yes.
before. But
That's
then
right.
getting up, right, moving, reflecting, growing, like to the point about the book at the 5 a.m. club, that's just three categories that you can fill with whatever you want. And that's one strategy, 20 minutes. They recommend 5 to 5:20, move, 5:20 to 5:40, reflect, 5:40 to 6 a.m. grow. But it's to say that's just one idea. If you get up at 6 and you've only got 30 minutes, or if you get up at 6:30, you only got 15, 30 minutes, there's something you can do, and we want you to
Yes.
start somewhere. So,
Yes. I do want
yeah,
to
go
say,
ahead.
Todd, on that note, I love everything you just said. And I do this routine even if I have not gotten anywhere near enough sleep. I
Wow.
mean, everybody knows you and I do a lot of training, and
Yep.
we sometimes have to do crazy hours because our clients are international. So Todd and I have done
Right.
training at like 4 or 5 in the morning where we have to get up at 2 or 3, right? Because
Yep.
we're working with folks somewhere else in the world. I still do the practice because even more so when I'm meditating, I'm saying to myself, even though I only slept 3 hours, I have plenty of reserve energy. Today is going to be a great day. I'm going to show up for this training as my best self. Even more important to do it and to still take that 20 minutes if I haven't gotten enough sleep. I just want everybody to know that. And one other
You,
thing, I
yeah.
just want to say one last thing about my routine because I don't
That's
want
not
people
true.
to
You're
think
gonna say 10,000
no,
more
no,
things,
just
but
one
that's
thing. And
okay.
then I want to,
Yeah.
and then we need to hear about your routine because the cool thing is you and I have different routines.
That's
After
right.
I do all of this, I brush my teeth. I don't want anybody to think that all this oil pulling and scraping is in place of brushing your teeth. But after I meditate, I go and I spit out my oil and then I brush my teeth thoroughly with an electric, really high quality toothbrush because I'm not saying that any of that replaces toothbrushing. But by the time I get to my toothbrushing, my mouth is like super, super clean already. And that's like, it's like I've done the deep, deep cleaning, right? It's like your house. And now the toothbrushing is just like the surface for shiny whites. So anyway, now we should hear about yours, Todd. Tell us about yours.
Uh, well, you said something interesting. I'm gonna answer the question of like why I do it because you got me thinking of,
Yes.
my I definitely don't wake up in a good mood all the time. And I've gotten so much better at it. And when I say in a good mood, it's just like I'm not awake when I wake up. I'm really not awake. You can ask anyone who has slept next to me, kids or otherwise. Like I am not awake. It takes me a second. I'm like a bear in hibernation that requires like some jolting. So like my strategy used to be just get in the shower, and that is a strategy that's recommended, right? Like if I have to do
Mm-hmm.
something, I used to try to get as much sleep as I could, and then I would have early classes to teach or early trainings, right? 7 8 a.m. And I'd be like, I'm gonna sleep as long as I can. I'm just gonna get in the shower and shake it off. And you know what, that was okay, I may do. But once I changed my morning routine, actually created a morning routine, I should say, um, it had just exponential effects
Mm-hmm.
to it. Just and
Mm-hmm.
so the reason I do it is because I don't wake up, and part of that is I don't sleep well always. I had, a little sleep apnea. I have allergies, so
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't breathe that great. I've improved that through exercise and a number of other things and eating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also my hip hurts, my right hip. I even wrote a blog about it. I call it my dad calls it the Parker hip, right? Like I have my right hip. I'll wake up, I'll toss and turn. So some nights I don't have a great night's sleep. I also have two young kids, and they wake up, they come and, Daddy, I need this, I want that, I want some cuddles even. So it's interrupted sleep. I don't use that as any form or by any means an excuse to not do my morning routine. I actually look forward
Mm-hmm.
to it because I know how valuable it is to me. It sets up my day. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
necessity for it. It actually is most important. That's what made me think of it. What you said, it's most important when I feel like I don't have the time, when I feel like I don't want to do my routine. And since it's
Mm-hmm.
become such a habit, I now really look forward to it. So what's my routine? I get up sometimes at 5, as I said, but often I get up around 6 o'clock, six,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even 6:30, but it's often around 6. And I go get coffee right away. I need some coffee. That's like my shower. But I take my coffee and I immediately go outside to my meditation chair. So I go out there with Louie. I have my kids part of the time. I have my kids 50% of the time. They live 10 houses down the street the other 50% of the time. So I see them an awful lot. But in the mornings, right, I have some time to self. So it's not to say that I don't have my own, 2 days where I'm alone, but I also have them the other part of the time and weekends, right? So there's a lot of juggling, and I had to train my kids to allow me to have this time. And I do mean train them, and they even come out and do it with me sometimes, and they'll sit and meditate. So it makes for some good bonding. But I go outside immediately. I sit in my meditation chair. I open my eyes as wide as I can to wake up, and without my glasses on, right? And I try to bring in as much of the sky and the trees and everything as possible. Because one thing I know about myself, and this is, again, not about recommending what you need to do, but telling you how I know myself and what I know I need to do, and then encouraging you to do what you need to do for yourself. I need to be connected to nature. I just need to. I need to do it every day. And if I start my morning with it, I'm in a much better place, just spiritually, my soul. So I sit outside, I drink my coffee, I start to do my breathing, right? So I have some deep breathing that I do just to get my, you talk about cleaning out your nose, right? I'm just trying to get myself to wake up. And then I try to hear what my mind's doing. So I let my mind wander to wherever it's going to go. And I start it by just listening to what's out there. It's what I call really deep listening. I learned this from my father, John Parker, who teaches mindfulness and meditation. Is just really deep listening to whatever's there and identifying it and naming it in my head. So I'll be like, a dog barked. Oh, there's a pigeon. Oh, I don't know that bird singing, right? So I'll just start doing that, wind blowing. And then as it starts to go on, I start to hear traffic. And if you listen real deep, you start to hear all these things that you didn't begin to hear, including your internal voice talking about all the crap you got to do that day, right? So stress starts floating through, tasks start floating through, self-doubt starts floating through, in between. And what do? I go back to, oh, there's the traffic, there's the bird. But I identify the thought first. I go, oh, Todd, you're kind of stressed out about da, 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 da. And I just let it go away. Oh, yeah, look, you're thinking about all the tasks you have today. Yeah, that's right, you do have those. And then I let it kind of float away, right? That's my initial practice. And what Eckhart Tolle calls that, Tolle, however you want to pronounce it, is watching the watcher, right? I learned that from him. Doing something to watch my mind, and also to have a practice, which is the deep listening, to bring it back to something that isn't, my mind, because as Tolle says, you are not your mind, you are the watcher of your mind. So that's the start of my morning, Bridget. Any questions that you?
No, probably it's so powerful. And you're making me want to add everything to my morning routine. I think my morning routine might get longer as a result of this, Todd, because I'm so inspired by what you're saying. And I'm also a fan of Eckhart Tolle, or however you want to say it. And it also reminds me of The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, where he talks about how we have the two voices in our head. And there's the ego that's always chattering. You have all these things to do, and you shouldn't have done that. And you shouldn't. And then the real us, which is that watcher who's watching the watcher and the observer. And you're getting in touch with that, and you're like calling that in, because that's who we want to be throughout the day. That's who we want to bring with us through our day. Not that chattering ego that's constantly telling us that we have more to do and we're not good enough. And so it's so powerful. Am I right? Because that's what I'm hearing from what you're saying.
Yeah. And you're 1,000,000% right. And I'll just add, what it does for me is it helps me feel like, reminds me that I'm not that important. And I do mean that, like, I'm not that important. Like, I like to feel small. It's very freeing. There's a lot of freedom in it. It's not that big a deal. It's not like some crisis. There's not some crazy thing that's going to happen. I just have something to do that my mind is telling me needs to get done. And then once it's done, I'm going to feel better. No, there's going to be something else on the other side of that. So I'm going to enjoy sitting here, feeling small, looking at this tree, looking at this sky, because sometimes it's not always the same. Bridget, sometimes I use the palm tree. I've talked to you plenty of times about the blowing of the palm tree. Like, I'll just look at the leaves on palm tree blow, or I'll watch the clouds float by. And this isn't for a long time, right? To the point about time, I spend about 5 to 10 minutes doing this sipping my coffee
Mm-hmm.
with Louie, my dog, laying. He does it with
Mm-hmm.
me, laying on my feet
Oh,
and warming my toes. That's part of it. I feel connected to him. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the start of it. I'll just add, because you talked about then you went into meditation. I
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my meditation, and then I do
Mm-hmm.
go into a very specific breathing exercise to
Mm.
which is research back to say
Mm-hmm.
to recalibrate, right, to reset our system through a
Mm-hmm.
series of breathing and bringing oxygen in and out. So I
Mm-hmm.
do what's called 4-7-8, in for 4,
Mm-hmm.
hold for 7,
Mm-hmm.
out for 8, focusing on blowing the air against the inside of my lips, upper lip. And I do that 5 times, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 5 to 10 times, depending on how I'm feeling, and infuse my body with all that life and oxygen. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, I go straight into meditating, and I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes do a guided meditation. I like the art of mindful living, and I'm gonna
Mm.
mispronounce the name, so I'm gonna let you pronounce the author's name. Bridget, say the name.
I forgot the art. Wait, which
Um, the art of mind. Well, anyways,
I
the art of
forgot.
mindful
Sorry.
living.
There's
That's
so many
okay. That's
I
okay. I
can't keep
forget
track.
the author's
Everybody
name
can
because I
look it
can't
up. The Art
pronounce
of
it.
Mindful Living. We'll look it
Yeah,
right
and
now.
it's fantastic. There's guided meditations in that, but one of the
Mm.
visions that I use, and I don't use the guide anymore, is just the vision of a still pond,
Mm.
against when you see a pond and it's reflecting the mountain range in front of you, right? Which is, I like to hike, I like to be connected to nature, and for the mind to be still, like the pond, like the lake, where you can see the sky, the mountains in the pond. That's where I'm aiming. I'm not always there, but that's where I'm aiming. And when I
Yeah.
give myself that direction, self-guided, right, self-fulfilling
Mm-hmm.
prophecy, when I give
Mm-hmm.
myself that vision, I'm able to calm down and seek down into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And that's another big recommendation that I've read a lot and heard a lot is finding your quiet, peaceful place. If it's on a lake or if it's out in the woods, like you can go there. I do know that some research on meditation says that your brain doesn't know the difference. It's kind of just like how people vision, athletes will vision, winning the game or whatever
That's
it is.
right.
So if you can really go there in your mind to that lake or that ocean front beach,
Yes.
space in the woods or the mountains, whatever it is for you, your brain doesn't know it. You're going to get the same benefits as if you were actually there. If you
That's
can
right.
really quiet the mind and go there. And meditation also, is proven absolutely to reduce stress, to improve physical and mental health, right? There is plenty of research on
That's
meditation.
right.
So we don't want to,
Boost your
we don't want to
memory,
avoid
right?
or
More
miss saying that.
energy.
Right.
There's just so many
Right.
benefits to all of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So very
Well,
powerful, Todd.
okay,
Yeah.
Bridget.
Okay.
As we've talked, we're very passionate, as you can tell, about
Yeah.
morning routines, right? And I want to say it again, this isn't taking us a ton of time. We're extending
Right.
out the discussion so that you
Right.
understand not just what the practice is, but what it does for us, why we do it, how we
Mm-hmm.
do it, and how then maybe it stimulates something in you to say, okay, I might try that, or I'm going to try these two
Mm-hmm.
things. I'm going to carve out 15-20 minutes, right? But we'll get to that challenge. All right. So
Yeah.
Bridget, please round out your routine for us. What's the rest of
Yeah,
it?
I will. And I will do it briefly because I don't want people to think that this takes so much time that it's impossible to do
Right.
because the whole routine, even with what the rest that I'll share right now, is probably a half an hour. And then I'm
Same
ready.
here.
Going to get in the shower. I'm going to probably work out after that and, go about my day and then shower and work all day.
Yep.
So what happens from there is that's when I leave the sanctity of, the space of my bedroom and my bathroom that's in my bedroom and come out into the rest of the house. And very much like you, then it's about connecting with my dogs. My two dogs are they're not therapy dogs, but they feel like my therapy dogs. And they are just ready to cuddle. They sleep together in a little bed
Oh.
in Neil's office. And we do close the door so that they're not like barking and going crazy, but they sleep very nicely together. And they come out and they're just full of love. So we go outside, I take them out so they can, do their thing outside, and they're jumping on me and cuddling, and they're so happy to see me. And then I feed
Oh.
them. And of course, that's why they love me even more because I feed them in the morning. And
Of
then we go
course.
outside again because they need a little bit more time outside. And so that's when I do some of the similar things that you said. I sit outside and I take in nature and I look at the trees. Yesterday, a good friend of mine who's also a fellow teacher, has this great program called Mindful Steps 1, 2, 3. I highly recommend it. I get her newsletter, and I had read her newsletter that recommended hugging a tree because I can't remember, but we had Earth Day recently, and there's Arbor Day, and there's all this, nature, recognition of loving the earth and nature. So yesterday I actually hugged a tree in my backyard for a long time with bare feet, just as she said. I know you're all going to think I'm weird, but it made me
I
feel
don't think you're
amazing.
weird.
There's like energy to get from the tree. So I did that, but
Oh,
every morning I do sit out there and I take in the nature for a few minutes with the love of my dogs, very much like you, and a cup of coffee. Yes, but it's very healthy coffee. It's coffee with superfoods, cacao powder, and reishi mushrooms, and all kinds of superfood powders and healthy stuff in the
I'm
coffee.
just straight coffee. It's coffee with
I know
sugar,
you like it black,
sugary.
and I use it to add superfoods, powders to get another boost of health. So that really rounds out the morning routine. But one other thing, can I just throw in one thing and then I'll be done with my morning routine? Intermittent fasting. I am a huge fan of intermittent fasting.
Yeah, you're not going to find me doing that.
I do not eat for several hours in the morning, and I love it. I know that my body is detoxifying and cleansing. You can find tons of research on the value of intermittent fasting. So my eating window, just like my sleeping window is 8 hours, my eating window, I do an 8-hour window, about 11 to 7, which is what intermittent fasting is. It's giving your body more time, that full 16 hours to clean and process and detoxify. It is proven. You can find tons of research. Choose your eating window, keep it as small as you can. That's part of my morning is I don't eat until 5 or so hours, and I don't get hungry anymore because you train your body into it, and it's cleansing. And another reason I never get sick. It's just so healthy to intermittent fast as long as you can in the morning. And hunger is not an emergency. You can feel a little hungry and drink some tea and you'll be fine.
That's right.
And eat when you've chosen to eat. And that's helped me maintain my absolute ideal, super healthy body weight at a much older age. And I've never been able to do that before. So that's it. I will end there. It goes into all kinds of other cool stuff, working out every day, but that's where I'll end the morning. And that's just a half an hour.
Yeah, there's so much. Look how much you can get done and do for yourself, and that's really what it is. It's time for self. It's the time carved out for yourself to be intentional about how the day is going to go, and then to go do it. But to think about it and to be with you really first, and then, like you said, to be with your animals, right? To be to hug Neil.
Hug Neil. You remember? You know this.
I know.
Neil and I talked about it in the podcast that Neil and I did for Valentine's Day, which you can all listen to.
Right.
We find each other whenever the one who got up last gets up. We find each other and we give each other a super long hug, all that yummy oxytocin and human connection. So yes, that's a big part of it too.
Connect.
And that's like 30 seconds, but the benefits huge. So yes.
Well, you said you people might think you sound crazy for hugging a tree. It certainly doesn't sound crazy to me. You're talking to a guy that loves to be a part of nature. I mean, just this past weekend, I was in Cambria, California, which is just a gorgeous little unknown beach town. Highly recommend you check it out if you're ever trying to just get away. But the and it's not just there. Up in Carpinteria, there's another beach like that I like to go to, Carpinteria, California. But what it is I call them bedrock beaches, like where it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like the actual bedrock is just sitting there. There's no sand. It's just the actual like earth. And when I stand on it, when I feel like, like you said, there's energy. The earth is, moving. It's, nobody talks about that. We're spinning at, 30, whatever, thousand miles an hour on this spaceship Earth cruising through space. Right. So there's an energy to it. And so I don't think you sound nuts at all. That sounds really, really grounding.
Grounding. Yes. Intended. And a lot of people, since you said that, Todd, just to throw out other practices that I know a lot of people have, is they feel that it's really important to step on the grass barefoot and have that same kind of connection with the earth, the dirt of the earth, the grass that's growing, and when barefooted to ground.
I didn't even think about this, but I take off my shoes and I touch the earth. I touch the ground when I'm meditating outside. So I'll just round out my mind, because like you said, it's 30 minutes. I don't go beyond 30 minutes. I don't really have more than 30 minutes most of the time, right? If I actually want to do my routine, I've got to be like, okay, it's 30 minutes. Sometimes it's 20. There's an abbreviated version. I get the kids to school, etc.
Yep.
I'm saying this to say you've got no excuse, right? You listen,
yes.
You have no excuse. So I'm in my chair. I'm meditating. I did my deep listening. I did my breathing. I connected to nature. I'm feeling small. I'm now doing my guided meditation. And so what I do, and I do the guided meditation real quick, is just to kind of still and quiet the mind, see what the mind's doing again. And then it's about my identity statement. So I have an identity statement that I say to myself. I learned this from my Uncle Joe, Joseph McClendon the third. You can check him out. He also has a fantastic podcast, Cure for the Common Life, and has a lot of things he's doing. Anyways,
I'm a huge Joseph McClendon fan. Yes, it's amazing. Check him out, everybody.
But Joe, and so I even got part of my identity statement from Joe and structured it after the identity statement he has for himself, because what he taught me is like, you may not always feel like the things that are in your identity statement, but the whole purpose is to direct the ship. It's to create the prophecy and to then live in accordance with the statement, and in this case, as you'll see, the values that I have enshrined in my identity statement. So my identity statement goes like this. It says, I'm Todd Lawrence Parker. I'm a spiritually guided expression of happiness, health, abundance, gratitude, joy, hope, and courage for myself and anyone that allows me into their life. So that's the statement I say to myself after I've meditated, and I say it to myself about 5 to 10 times, and then I reflect on each of those values individually. And I think to myself very quickly, 30 seconds to a minute, how am I embodying, or how will I embody that value in my life that day? And I think through what I have to do for the day and how it's going to show up. And where I ultimately end up with a lot of my time spent is on gratitude. All right. So I build my gratitude, which I recommend to all my coaching clients. And there's amazing research to support, again, starting your day with gratitude. So I really think about all the different things I'm grateful for. It's the last part of this reflection. Then I open my eyes. By the way, I'm doing this all with my feet on the floor, my back straight, and my eyes closed, and my dog on my feet. And then I stretch. I stand up. Tony Robbins, who's love him or whatnot. He's got some great suggestions about stretching. And so stretching as a means of he's all about changing your state, right? Change your state, your motion and action to change your state of mind. So one thing I stole from one of his workshops is a stretching exercise where I interlock my hands behind my head, and I put my elbows out, and I arch my back, and I point my toes in, and I stretch for about 30 seconds to a minute, and I do a big bear kind of growl. That's what and then my kids know I'm done. And I walk inside, I give them a big hug. I connect with them a little bit. We make sure they get fed and all that good stuff.
That's important.
And then I go into the rest of the day, and I'm always in that great place, no matter how I started. And this is what I look forward to. It's what I know as a part of habit and practice, that when I go do this, I will feel good. Yes. When I go do this, I'm going to feel so much better than I felt the moment that I got up. So that's what I do. No matter what it is, I go do it.
So powerful and inspiring. I'm honestly going to be adding to my routine. It might get up to 40 minutes now that I've heard everything that you shared, Todd. But when you were talking about your identity statement, I just want to speak to that, because, you and I are communication professors. We're life coaches and executive coaches. So we're always talking about communication, right? And what you're talking about is how we communicate with ourselves. What do we say to ourselves? We're always talking to ourselves. And there's evidence that so much of our self-talk is negative. So you're it's like an inoculation, this morning conversation with yourself about who you really are, who you truly are in your soul and your spirit, your core, right? And so you're going to spend your whole day talking to yourself in your mind and talking to other people. So it's just such a beautiful way to set that tone of, this is how I want to talk to myself in my mind, right?
You're talking about intrapersonal speech, right? Self-talk, intrapersonal. Interpersonal's you and I, right? Small group, and then public speaking, right? But intra, you and yourself, right? There's this saying that I really enjoy, and so it goes like this. It says, words, this is from Kenneth Burke. It says, words are like planets, each with their own gravitational pull. The way we speak to ourselves, the words we use, I'm so anxious, I'm so depressed, I'm so fearful, right? Those words like you said earlier, the mind does not know the difference. So if we don't have a foundation and a practice a foundational practice i.e. the morning, to
Mhm.
see the mind doing what it's doing, as I said earlier, to watch the watcher, to get a beat on it, and then to throw those reins around it, and whether it's a horse or a ship, whatever you see it, direct it towards where you want it to be. That's the reason for the identity statement, right? That's the reason for those values. That's the reason for all of your practices. It's
Mhm.
to point it where we want to go. So to
Yes.
your point, neuro-linguistic programming, which is another well-studied
Mhm.
topic. The words, which is all about the way we speak to ourselves, the words we use to describe situations, people, specifically to
Mhm.
your point, ourselves, they really
Yeah.
do matter. They really do
Absolutely.
matter. So,
Absolutely. And I just
yeah.
want to distinguish, because when you were saying the thoughts like, I'm so anxious, I'm so depressed, if you really are anxious and depressed, we want you to get support and we want you to get mental
Yes.
health assistance, a therapist, a program. What we're talking about are just those daily messages that we feed ourselves that we really want to stop and question. Is that true? Does that
Right.
have to be true? Right? The work of Byron Katie was so game changing for me, where she says, any thought, anytime you catch a persistent thought, just ask yourself, is that true? Does that really have to be true? And who would I
Right.
be
What's
without
the
that thought?
evidence?
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we can catch that negative thinking of like, oh, this is so hard. This is so horrible. I'm no good at this. All that negative, and say, oh, wait, that's not true. Those are just thoughts in my mind that I can shift. So yes,
Right.
so important. And I just want to distinguish that. Like if it's persistent and you are depressed, please, you need mental health support. And we're not
Yeah.
talking about that. We're talking about just this negative self-reinforcing conversation in our mind that's not really the truth for us, and where we can come to a place of really acknowledging that we're wonderful. Like we go about our day complimenting everybody else, right? You did such a great job on that presentation today. Oh, you're doing so wonderful in coaching. You made all these changes, right? We're supposed to, as coaches, we're supposed to
That's
strength
right.
spot. We learned in our coaching training, and constantly be telling our clients like positive reinforcement. Why aren't we doing that with ourselves? So let's do that in the morning and then
Oh.
carry it throughout the day, right?
Well, the what you're talking about, Bridget, is really and what we're talking about is the foundation for healthy habits of body and mind, right? But and really, what you said in there
Yes.
was, we're not trying. This isn't a cure. It's a starting point. It
Mm-hmm.
would be to see that your mind's doing that, and then make choices that help you rise out of it. Or if you're in a
Mm-hmm.
great place, to parlay it, right? That, like I said, we're in the whole point's to get in, not in the most positive place, but to get into a productive place, a creative place, an innovative place, right? A place that is self-confident and that wants to take on the uncertainty that the day, the week, the month has, so that we
Mm-hmm.
can, as I always say, get what we want, not just for ourselves, but for everybody that matters to us. The 5 a.m. Club book that I mentioned earlier talks about mastering our four internal empires. They put it,
Mm-hmm.
this great way. But I know this will connect with you, Bridget. They talk about mindset, heart set, health set, and
Mm-hmm.
soul set. So the mind, the heart, the health,
Yes.
and the soul. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so all I'm trying to do, whether it's move, reflect, grow, mindset, heart, health, soul, right? If it's about the Miracle Morning Millionaires book talks about the things that were lifesavers for him, the gentleman that wrote it, right? Like as I mentioned earlier, right? Silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, scribing, right? Whether you're trying to nurture your career, relationship, self, all the above, what we're asking you to do is put it front and center, and to devote some small portion of your day, if you got to get up earlier, do it, to directing this thing where you want it to go. That's what we're here to help you do. That's why we do this podcast. It's why we do our webinars. It's why we're coaches. It's everything that we're about, because it starts right here. So Bridget, I'm going to throw it to you for some final thoughts, and then we're gonna let everybody go.
Well, I think you summed it up perfectly, Todd. I would just say be kind to yourself. And our ask is clear on this one: to develop a morning routine. We are asking you, not for us, but for you to do that for yourself. And I would just say, like the episode we shared with you a few episodes back on mini habits, it's fine to start this as a mini habit and
Yep.
go back to that episode too to reinforce what you've heard here. If you can start with 3 minutes, 5 minutes, that's fantastic. You will love it so much and the results that you'll probably want to start stretching it to 10 or maybe 20, right? Or maybe not. Or maybe for life, it will be a 5-minute routine for you. And that's great too. We honor you and what will work for you. And we've just tried to share. And I just want to add one thing. I know this is longer than we thought because we're so passionate about it, and I'm cool with that, but one thing that didn't come up is writing. And I have had many practices also where I write in the morning. I do write at different times of the day, but for those of you who are big writers, I highly recommend Morning Pages, which is from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, which is very well known. She talks about just writing morning pages where you just write you type or you handwrite and you allow whatever comes out to come out and get it all out on paper on the computer. And I just talked to a friend who does the morning pages, who's a fellow coach. And she said she was doing her morning pages and just getting everything out. And she came up with this like brilliant idea for a new program. And she wasn't trying to, but it just flowed out and came out. So
that's so
writing can be an option as well. And we could probably talk for 10 more hours, right, Todd, about all the possible practices that you could incorporate into your morning routine. But just know that we know there are many, many more. You may start your 5 or 10-minute routine and it may not include anything that we've talked about, but you know what works for you. And you find your teachers and your books and your resources and your podcasts, other podcasts to help you figure out what that is. But that is our big ask of you. At least I'll say 3-minute routine at least that you start immediately and that is what really works for you, and see what the benefits are. And hey, let us know. Follow us. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. Let us know how that's going for you and give us other ideas because we'd love to share them with our clients.
Well, you reminded me, Bridget, that there's another fantastic resource for everyone called it's a book called What the Most Successful People Do Before Breakfast. Right. And it's really like, how do you achieve the perfect morning? And what reminded me of it is they constantly use the example of grad students or professors who write, specifically professors who write daily, right? Every day in the morning, specific time, just like your friend. These brilliant, that's where we're brilliant. It's actually, and it's one of the benefits. So here's what they say to do in that book, right? They say, because you might be saying, Todd, Bridget, like, darn it, like, I'm convinced, okay, I'm going to do it. Like, I don't just want to do 3 minutes and I want to do. So here's what you can do. Okay. Track your time. How do you spend your time now, in the evening, right? Throughout in the morning? Do you get up and waste time? Do you check the stock market? Do you go to Netflix? Do you check your phone on social media? Like, same thing at night. Where are you burning time? Where can you get some time back, maybe? Step 2, envision it, right? What's your perfect morning look like? As they say in the book, is it to run a marathon? Is it so do you have to train? Is it to write a book? Are you gonna, do you need a new skill? We're here coming out of COVID and the pandemic. Like, have you been working on a skill for the last year every morning? Where would you be to be able to make a job change if you really wanted to at this moment as things open back up? So track your time, envision what your perfect morning looks like, then work through the logistics. Step 3, like, figure out what's the morning schedule going to be. It could be 3 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour. What do you have? And then focus on making space for only those things that are most important to you. And then the last thing, just decide what those actions are and do them. Those are the changes that you need to make. So now it's time to actually follow through with them. And as Bridget said, that mini habit discussion we had a few podcasts ago certainly help you out with that. We hope this was super valuable. We went way longer than we planned on, but as you can probably tell if you made it this long, we're very passionate about the discussion. So until next time, Bridget, thank you for such a spirited discussion. I so appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. You're part of my gratitude every morning, so I'm grateful for you.
You too, Todd. You too. I think that every morning, thank goodness I'm in all this together with Todd, and we're doing it all together as a team. Yes. It's mutual.
So, sending you so much love, and also to you, our listeners, we really appreciate you, and I'm grateful for you and all the work that you allow us to engage in, because it only makes us better people, and it allows us to achieve our goal of leaving people better than we found them. So until next time, be good people and make good choices.